My name is Pastor Trezza Thuo. I love the Lord as my personal Savior. I minister with Christian Living Family Fellowship in Dumberi. Dumberi is in Kiambu. And Trezza is a normal lady, a normal, good person. I was born over 45 years ago, and I was born as a very normal child, the normal growth that somebody goes through when they are young. But when I was 10 years, my parents tell me that I got sick. I got sick and I was taken to hospital. And when in the middle of treatments and all that, there was an injection. There was an injection that I was given. So after the injection, they went home. But then they realized that I was not stepping down with one of my legs, the right leg. So they thought maybe this is the numbness of the injection. So they thought they give it a day and go back to the hospital the next day. So the whole night, they tell me I cried the whole night. But when they went back the next day, they were told that it was a nerve injury. One of the nerves in my right leg had gotten injured, and therefore there was nothing that could be repaired. When a nerve dies, it's very hard to make it come back to life. So I had to adjust myself to now living a life of disability. It was very hard for my mom, very hard for my father. It was so hard for them because this is a child who was jumping all over, but now she had to start limping. Actually, I would hold my legs so that I can stand. And at this time, I was in class 2, class 3. So you can imagine how life changes. And I'm born in Kiambu, but we were schooling in Nairobi, a school known as Khalsa Primary near bus station. And the school had stairs. So you can imagine the adjustment from somebody who is not able to walk fast like the other children. And I don't know, during those days, there was that stigma of when you become disabled, people think it is contagious. I remember this teacher, I'll never forget this teacher, who was an Indian lady. I'm very sorry to say this, but she was an Indian lady. From then she changed. She really used to hate me. She could not cope with me, and she was a teacher, she was our teacher. But what made me shine is because I was a performing girl. So even if you want to get rid of me, you'll have to see me in your results. I would perform so well. So I thank God that I was able to go through the primary school. I was able to cope. I passed well, and I was enrolled in Pangani Girls. This is where the challenge was, the biggest challenge was. Because those days, Pangani Girls had a staircase, a flyover of staircase, just stairs. Not like the way nowadays, I think they have a ramp all the way. But then that time, it was a staircase. So you can imagine going up those stairs and down, and it is twice in a day because we had to go for, actually at times even 3 times, because it is in the morning for lunch, we had to go back to the dorms for lunch, and then in the evening for our preps. But I thank God. I think I'm a very strong person, and I believe in just trying my best. So I remember I would always reach class late, later than the rest, but I thank God I still kept up working harder. And I went through secondary school, I finished. I went enrolled in college, I did business administration. So I'm an administrator by profession. So how was it growing up? My life is quite interesting because I think I had to adjust myself to love myself. And this is what many people with disabilities don't have. They don't love themselves. Of course, in the beginning, it was very hard. I remember when I started wearing this is called a walking brace. When I started wearing this brace, I threw some of them, like 3 or 4, in the pit latrine. I would be taken to the hospital. I'm fixed one, but I threw it in the pit latrine. So it was very hard for me to really accept myself. But I think eventually I learned this is a condition that will not change. This is something that I have to grow up with, and I decided I have to move on with life. So I was as I was growing up as a lady, of course, there's this time, I know I'm beautiful. I know I am. Am I?
You are.
I'm very beautiful. I know. So you because you believe in yourself, you'll be tuned. You get to that state of people want to tune you. And I've seen people with disabilities who don't even want anybody being attracted to them, because first of all, they don't even appreciate themselves. But for me, there were those people who would come to me. But I also realized in the middle of those people who come to tune you, there are those people who want to take advantage of you. There are those people who want to prove whether you're also a normal person. But I thank God, out of the many that came, there was this good man who is now my husband, Mr. Philip Thuo Njoroge. We pastor with him, he's also a pastor. And I always ask myself where he got that confidence, because I remember he would give me dates. And I tell him, no, let us meet there. I wouldn't want, I think I still had that problem of accepting myself. So, but he would tell me, no, I'm walking with you. And he would hold my hand and he would walk around with me, showing off, not feeling ashamed of me. And maybe that is one of the things that really made me accept him. I thank God that he was able.
Cut you short.
Yes.
What was the worst experience that you ever faced while you were in that process of dating?
In that process of dating, I have gotten into relationships where somebody doesn't want to show me off, like they are ashamed of me. They will not tell their friends about me or even their parents about me. They want to talk about me out there and tell people I have a good girl, I have a beautiful girl somewhere, but they do not want their people to meet me. So those are some of the embarrassing things that I have gone through, that they wouldn't want to show you off. So, but they want to really, they would give a photo of me and maybe half photos, because they don't want to show the lower part. The other thing that I remember, one time I met somebody who was really interested in me. But the day he met me, I remember the day he met me, he screamed, like he's seen a ghost or something, because we would talk on the phone. There's a place that I was working and I was a switchboard operator, so I think he had known me through the phone. So the day he met me face to face, he even screamed, because he wouldn't have imagined himself with a disabled person. So I've gone through such things. I've gone to situations of people asking, now this one, can she give birth? Would she have children? But a disabled person is a very normal person. Yeah, those are some of the things that I've gone through, especially during dating.
With this kind of challenges, did it affect you in any way?
For me, because I had been transformed, I was a very strong person. I always believed you will not intimidate me. You either accept me as I am or just keep off. So, and then I also let myself be happy. So if I'm tuned, okay. If I'm not, I'm very happy with myself. So I didn't have a problem of self-esteem. That one had really brought it down, and I was able to cope with everyone. And I also happen to be a sanguine. So I'm always able to cope with everybody around me. Yeah.
Now with this guy who screamed when he saw you,
yeah.
What was your reaction? How did you feel?
Of course, it made me feel so bad, because on the phone we would talk and he was talking very well. But on the day he saw me, the way he reacted, actually we didn't even meet. We met, he screamed and he was like, me, with you, no, and it was open. It was in an open place and everybody could see. And he just walked out. But I've never seen him again. I'm sure he sees me, maybe on social media, but I never saw him again. And we never talked again, because it was really humiliating, very humiliating. Yeah.
You've talked about struggling to accept you using this
walking brace.
Walking what?
Walking brace.
Walking brace.
Yeah.
When did you come to accept it, and how was it?
I started using this thing immediately. I got the problem. That was about 10 years, around 10, 11 years. But I think it took me like 5 years to accept it. I would fix it. It's not an easy thing to, it holds the leg together. So I think it was so hard for me to adjust myself to having it on my leg. And I remember I'm born in Ushago, Kiambu, so I would throw, to make sure that I don't wear it. And it's not cheap. I would put it in the pit latrine. So, but eventually, I realized this is a situation that I will not be able to change. After around 5 years, I realized this is something that I have to move on with in life. And I realized this is what is making me strong. With the leg had already become weak. So I had to use something to make it, to support it. So I realized this is a support for the leg, and I have to use it to be able to walk faster, to be able to do more tasks. Yeah, I realized it was very important for me. Yes.
Still on that dating process.
Yes.
I would like to understand, because these are one of the most roughest situations, especially being a young girl, and you also need to live a normal life like the other girls, and then here disappointments are coming on the way. How did you get used to it? Like you just took it normal? How?
I think I had this notion as I was growing up. I had this notion that I will never get married. So for me, I was enjoying myself. And everybody who tunes me or who dates me, I go for coffee, I go for tea. They call me for tea. But in my mind, I think there was something that would tell me, for you can't get married.
Why?
I don't know. I just felt I was not fit for marriage. And I know these are some of the things that people with disabilities go through. Because you feel you're like inadequate. You feel like you'll never get somebody. But for me, I always say God's plans are mysterious. Because I don't know how I got married. Because it's just that you meet somebody and this just fixes, things fix themselves up. But for me, all through my life, okay, I would date, I would meet people, but in my mind, I never saw myself as a wife. I would see myself as a mother, because I was telling myself one day I'll get a child, but I never saw myself as a wife, which happened mysteriously.
With that kind of mindset,
yeah,
and then here comes things happening in a open space,
yeah,
whereby you meet people and then you get rejected. Did you get demoralized, and did you feel like now I don't want to get married?
You see, from the beginning, I do not know why in my mindset didn't have marriage. But it had, I can date. It had, I can meet people. But for me, I would always see myself as, these are just people passing by. So for me, even if you reject me, I was always ready for the next. And I think I never reached a point where I felt rejected. Though it would happen. You see somebody taking advantage of you, or even dating you, but they have somebody aside. Because for you, they are not taking you seriously. So for me, I think I never reached that point of feeling rejected. As I told you, I'm a sanguine. I relate with so many people. So I had opportunities of just being happy until now God did it for me. When I met this man who looked serious, because what happens with the people with disabilities, they find people who are not serious. They are not consistent with what they want with you. So I've met this man who was very consistent, who was pushing, who was showing me, it's me and you. And we pushed like 3 years before we got married. So that was a long relationship, unlike the rest. And that's when I realized, I think I'm also a wife material. And I was. But now I realize there's something bigger than just this dating. Yeah.
You didn't get affected with the previous scenarios that you had went through?
Of course I did. And I was very cautious. So why the relationship took very long is because I was also like, I'm not so sure. But the man who wanted to marry me was so sure, and he wanted such a lady. Actually, he tells me when he was in class 5, he's from Nakuru, I'm from Kiambu. So you can imagine destiny, what destiny does. He was a desk mate with a girl who had a caliper like me. And he just told himself, when I grow up, I'd like to marry such a girl. But can you imagine, so many years after we meet in Nairobi, the same girl. So I think he just had a heart for us. And that's why he met me.
What would you advise, especially people of your position, and they feel demoralized?
I would encourage them to be strong, to love themselves. I think what has kept me going is because I love myself. I have accepted myself. I have accepted who I am. I have accepted that I have a disability. When I talk to people, people tell me, Pastor, don't say that. No, I have it. And nothing is changing. I have to love myself as I am, so that the world will love me as I am. Otherwise, if I pretend that I'm okay, I pretend that I can walk like you, it will not happen. And that will just stress me up. So what I always tell people with disabilities, accept who you are. Accept your strengths. Accept what you can do. And what you can't, don't fight with it. Yes.
How did your ministry come up?
Okay. As I was growing up, I'm a person who really loves God, who loved singing in church and participating in church. But now, as I grew up, I love God. I was born again, even in secondary school. So when I came out, I started ministering to people, going to church, serving in church. And eventually, that's when I joined Christian Living Family Fellowship, where now I'm an ordained minister of the gospel, and that's where I preach. And I preach to over 100 people, many people, and I'm happy they don't see my disability. They see what I produce as a pastor. And I love when I'm doing this because I encourage other people. There are so many people, especially with disabilities, who are hiding themselves, who are hiding because they imagine, being especially a pastor, why can't I pray for myself to get healed? And I always say, God did this to glorify himself. He wants to use even people with disabilities. So I would encourage people who are disabled or who have challenges to believe in themselves and do what they are called to do. God has somebody for them, but they have to stop rejecting themselves. I'll not stop saying that. You get rejected when you reject yourself. When you believe in yourself, make yourself beautiful. Look like, this is just a very minor thing in my body. The rest of my body is okay. So as long as I will present myself well, I'll be attractive to the world. The world will be attracted to me, and of course I'll get somebody. I always believe there is somebody for somebody. There's always somebody for someone. So there is someone for you. Don't get discouraged. When this one rejects you, move to the next, because God has somebody and a better one for you.